Hi, this is the AI Storyteller. I'm Mark. Today, I will interpret the representative work of the famous British novelist and playwright, William Somerset Maugham, titled The Razor's Edge. The Razor's Edge tells the story of a young American man's spiritual journey after World War I. The protagonist, Larry, comes from a good background but loses his parents early in life and is raised by a friend of his father who is a doctor. He is sunny, kind, and charismatic, and should have naturally led a privileged American life. However, World War I changes the course of his life. When the war begins, Larry enlists as a young American pilot. In the military, he befriends an Irishman who is brave, kind, and full of life. In a fateful encounter, this friend sacrifices himself to save Larry during a battle. Witnessing the sudden transformation of his vibrant friend into a broken corpse, Larry confronts the ugliness of death for the first time and is left bewildered about the purpose of life and how to navigate his own existence. This becomes the central theme of Larry's life. Maugham was one of the most successful and popular British novelists of the first half of the 20th century. He wrote over 20 novels, more than 120 short stories, and over 30 plays during his lifetime, in addition to travelogues, literary criticism, and memoirs. The Razor's Edge was Maugham's work completed at the age of 70 and was one of the most important works of his late career. He himself described it as follows: "I call it a novel, solely because I do not know what else to call it." Why did Maugham say this? It's because The Razor's Edge is the only novel in which Maugham uses his real name as the narrator. The characters in the book may have different names, and the plot may be artistically altered, but the content is almost entirely non-fictional, drawn from Maugham's own experiences and those of his friends. Therefore, this book is like a biography as well as a memoir. To understand this book, we must first understand Maugham's own life. Maugham was born in Paris in 1874, where his father worked at the British Embassy. Maugham lost both of his parents before he turned 10 and was sent back to England to be raised by his uncle. Additionally, his short stature and severe stuttering cast a shadow over his childhood. These memories are reflected in his later works and had a profound influence on his worldview and literary creations. Although he began writing novels at the age of 23, it wasn't until he was 28 that he achieved fame with a play he wrote himself. At the age of 34, there were 4 of his plays running simultaneously in London, one of which ran for an entire year. However, Maugham soon shifted his focus back to the world of novels and went on to write works like Of Human Bondage and The Moon and Sixpence. Maugham loved adventure and travel and had a deep curiosity and enthusiasm for various indigenous cultures, Indian culture, and Chinese culture. At the age of 46, Maugham traveled to China and wrote a lengthy novel titled The Painted Veil set in China. In 1938, at the age of 64, in order to understand the depths of Hinduism, Maugham traveled to India to gather information. While waiting to meet the sage Ramana Maharshi, Maugham suddenly fell ill and fainted. Upon hearing this news, the sage visited him and silently gazed at Maugham for half an hour without uttering a word. In the end, the sage said, "Silence is also a form of dialogue." Maugham was deeply moved by these words, and his experiences in India served as a source of inspiration and a rich reservoir of material for his work, The Razor's Edge. For example, the title The Razor's Edge is derived from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, which states, "The sharp edge of a razor is difficult to pass over, thus the wise say the path to salvation is hard." India also becomes the final destination of the protagonist's long journey in the book, where he finds inner peace. In October 1940, with World War II raging, the British Intelligence Department hoped that Maugham, using his status as a renowned writer, could go to the United States on a secret propaganda mission to garner American support for Britain's war efforts. Maugham traveled to the U.S. ostensibly to arrange for the publication of his new book, but also engaged in promoting the British cause, delivering speeches at various gatherings, giving interviews, and attending fundraising dinners. Apart from New York, he also visited Chicago, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. His travels and experiences in the United States became a significant source of background material for The Razor's Edge. With a wealth of material gathered from India and the United States, Along with Maugham's keen observations of his friends, the storylines and spatial logic needed for The Razor's Edge were largely complete. To provide him with a quiet environment for writing and living, his publisher built a cottage near his estate in South Carolina, where he settled during the remaining years of the war. The Razor's Edge is not a novel centered around events, and the theme of exploring the meaning of life has appeared in many other literary works. What makes The Razor's Edge stand out, in addition to Maugham's sharp writing style, is the carefully crafted contrast between the main characters in the book. Therefore, in the following analysis, we will examine the protagonist, Larry, and the major characters who strongly contrast with him, using their life experiences as clues to string together the entire story. Let's start with Larry. Upon returning to the United States, he cannot accept the life that has been arranged for him. He first refuses to become a stockbroker, freeing himself from the constraints of work and livelihood. Then, he breaks off his engagement with his beloved but ideologically mismatched fiancée, Isabel, freeing himself from the bonds of marriage, and embarks on a long journey of exploring the meaning of life wholeheartedly. Along this journey, Larry reads extensively in the fields of psychology and philosophy, seeking answers to life's questions from the wisdom of the ancients. He even works as a coal miner, engaging in strenuous physical labor to empty his mind. He spends some time in a monastery, hoping to find solace in religion, but ultimately, religion cannot resolve the lingering doubts in his heart. In order to clarify his thoughts and eliminate distractions, Larry embarks on another journey, taking a job as a sailor on a cruise ship and traveling all the way to India. Finally, in the spiritual philosophies of India, he finds a concept of self-realization and self-conviction, experiencing the mysterious and joyful feeling of enlightenment. After finding the guiding light in the darkness, Larry returns to the secular world of America, discards his possessions, lives humbly, and disappears into the crowd, living a life of calmness, self-control, compassion, selflessness, and self-denial. Larry's character is profoundly compelling, but in the realm of storytelling, such a character can easily become unrealistic and unrelatable. Some have speculated that the prototype for Larry was the philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein, as he had indirect interactions with Maugham in real life. Others have suggested that Larry was based on the British-American writer Aldous Huxley, who shared a close friendship with Maugham, had a deep interest in Eastern culture, and even traveled to India to study and practice spirituality. There is also a theory that Larry was inspired by Maugham's lover and secretary, Haxton, who was outgoing, charismatic, had personal charm, and had served in World War I, where he crossed paths with Maugham on the battlefield. Maugham's response to this was, "All the surnames of the characters in the book have been changed, and they must be written in such a way that people cannot recognize who they are, to avoid discomfort for those who are still alive." The reason why this character has sparked speculation among readers is, on one hand, Maugham's writing style, and on the other hand, it reflects Maugham's precise understanding of the spiritual landscape of people in the era of the novel. Larry's social role is very straightforward. He has no family, no profession, and only a few casual friends. He is a perfect wanderer unburdened by societal constraints. He is like a tightrope walker, and the most delicate yet powerful wire that supports him is his relentless pursuit of the meaning of life. The narrator, Maugham, plays the role of connecting these delicate threads. He follows Larry closely, constantly questioning him, and occasionally interjects to speak on his behalf, defending his authenticity and goodness. The deep dialogues between the two continually pull a silent soul back into the realm of the worldly society. The Razor's Edge can be seen as a culmination of Maugham's long and prolific writing career. From Larry's quest, we can see the existential crisis that gripped Western society after World War I, with economic depression and spiritual emptiness. Larry's relentless pursuit and questioning of whether and how humanity can be saved become the central themes, resembling Maugham's own ultimate understanding of this challenging exploration. Now, let's turn our attention to Isabel, Larry's fiancée. She hails from a diplomatic family, and her uncle, Elliot, is a renowned figure in European social circles. Isabel and Larry grew up together, had a beautiful love, and dreamed of a promising future. They even became engaged at one point, but she couldn't tolerate Larry's seemingly carefree lifestyle. The primary point of contention between them was that Larry found the excitement of a spiritual life exhilarating, one that made him indifferent to worldly power and honor, whereas Isabel couldn't relate to this. She preferred a life of immediate pleasure, participating in social gatherings, dances, golf, horseback riding, and dressing elegantly. Throughout the novel, their relationship is a constant presence, and even after breaking off their engagement, they maintain a deep friendship and connection. Isabel later marries Gray, one of Larry's good friends, and a wealthy stockbroker. The Great Depression of 1929 significantly impacts both their family fortunes, and Isabel relies on her uncle's support. Through her own efforts, she manages to re-establish financial stability for her family of 4. She transforms from a carefree and pleasure-seeking young girl into a strong, responsible middle-aged woman. In terms of seeking virtue, Isabel is a success. She attains social status in a vibrant and cultured society, and secures financial security for herself and her family. Gray, Isabel's husband, is one of the most unassuming and kind-hearted characters in the novel. He is the embodiment of goodness. He selflessly assists Larry and respects him, while also holding Isabel in high regard and deep affection. From their youthful romantic dreams to the realization of their marriage and parenthood, Gray demonstrates unwavering commitment. He remains free from any signs of vanity or selfishness, serving as a stabilizing force in the two men and one woman character dynamic of the novel. Even in the face of bankruptcy and illness, he maintains a genuine and open relationship with Larry, continuing to live together. Gray represents a new type of character, a trend in American society, balancing out the tension brought by Isabel. Beside Larry and Isabel, there is another important female character in the story, Sophie. She was a childhood friend of Larry and Isabel and shared beautiful, hazy memories with them from their youth. Sophie grew up to be a graceful and elegant woman, got married, and led a happy life. However, a sudden tragedy changed everything when her husband and child died in a car accident. Unable to cope with the loss, Sophie underwent a drastic transformation in her character, becoming a despised and self-destructive woman. She sought to numb her soul in order to escape the pain. In Larry's eyes, Sophie remained the innocent girl he knew from the past, and he aimed to redeem her soul by proposing marriage to her. Just as Sophie was accepting Larry's proposal and preparing to rebuild her life, she fell into a trap set by the jealous and possessive Isabel, leading her to abandon the marriage. It was an incident both accidental and inevitable. Sophie was a stubborn woman, ensnared by her pain, and although Larry was a ray of sunshine to her, it wasn't strong or warm enough. Sophie ultimately passed up the opportunity, returning to her own path of decadence and self-abandonment, ultimately meeting a tragic end in a foreign land, fulfilling her self-destructive tendencies. In his interactions with the people around him, Larry is a nonconformist, a fleeting dream. He passes through their lives, leaving behind memories and a sense of yearning, but he doesn't change or harm anyone, not even his first love, Isabel, who, as a beautiful woman seeking happiness in the practical world, only experiences a loss of unfulfilled possessiveness. Larry doesn't need to hustle for a living, and his personality lacks aggression, channeling all his struggles inward, focused on self-improvement rather than harming others, filtering out any potential harm. Larry is a messenger of spiritual life, a practitioner of an ideal world, and a crystalline character. Maugham beautifully describes him in the novel. Time had not marred Larry, not in any way, and in every respect, the returned Larry was still a youth. Youth here doesn't refer to age but to a spirit that never gives up, which is a type of character Maugham admires. Both The Razor's Edge and another popular novel, The Moon and Sixpence, have a spiritual inclination. The protagonists in both novels give up comfortable lives to seek truth. In The Moon and Sixpence, Charles Strickland, a stockbroker, suddenly abandons his family after 17 years of marriage, answering the call of an artistic oracle to break free from family and societal constraints. Larry, too, flies against the prevailing winds, carrying a spirit of dedication in a materialistic society, attempting to provide salvation and solutions to others in this mundane world. Within The Razor's Edge, There is one character who acts as Larry's critic and serves as another reference point in his life, almost diametrically opposed to him. That character is Elliot Templeton, Isabel's uncle, a prominent figure in European high society, carrying more social complexity and literary depth. The novel begins with a discussion about people, stating that individuals, regardless of their gender, are not just themselves. They are also the place they were born, the farm or city apartment where they took their first steps, the games they played as children, the meals they ate, the schools they attended, the sports they were interested in, and the God they believed in. All of these things have shaped them into who they are today, and these aspects cannot be understood through hearsay alone. One must have lived through them to truly understand. Before his parents' passing, W. Somerset Maugham's childhood home in Paris was a famous social salon in high society. His father was knowledgeable and well-connected, while his mother was graceful and captivating. Government officials, artists, and celebrities from all walks of life were regular guests. His brothers attended prestigious British schools, and young Maugham spent most of his time with his mother. When guests gathered, he was often paraded out by his mother to be showcased and enjoyed afternoon tea with the intellectual and influential adults. Young Maugham, who could speak both French and English, was charming and clever, often receiving gifts from the guests. After achieving fame, Maugham became a prolific author, with numerous bestsellers worldwide. He was a veteran perched atop million-selling books, earning astonishing fees and royalties. He mingled in various social circles and possessed extensive knowledge of the upper-class social life, including all its rules and intricacies. Characters like Elliot Templeton represent the social life and character types that Maugham was most familiar with. When shaping these characters, we can feel the characteristic style of Maugham's language, a lightness that comes from familiarity, as if effortlessly plucking ideas from a bag, presented by a sage turning his back to a bygone era. His language is polished and vivid, filled with frequent aphorisms. For instance, when you decide to break with convention, you are gambling. Many are called, but few are chosen. Important people always have their favorite lackeys. You must be careful with these people who rely on their favor. When they don't receive the respect they believe they deserve, they become hostile and repeatedly sow discord in front of their masters. Reading Maugham's sharp and incisive comments on human nature and society is a great pleasure when delving into his works. His skill in character development is profound. His characters often come alive with just a few words, and he masterfully controls the pace, gradually delving deeper into their inner worlds. Similar to The Moon and Sixpence, The Razor's Edge also introduces its main characters through an extended social life narrative. Elliot Templeton is the first significant character introduced in The Razor's Edge and remains present throughout the story. In Maugham's portrayal, Elliot is portrayed as a person who values social status and often displays absurd affectations. However, he is also kind-hearted, affectionate, and honest. During the economic crisis, he generously assists his niece Isabel's family, demonstrating his loyalty. Maugham always views people with understanding and refuses to pigeonhole anyone. Elliot serves as a mirror of American social life, and socializing is the essence of his existence. With a distinguished family background, his father was a university president, and his grandfather was a renowned theologian. Elliot himself received an excellent education and was highly intelligent. Yet, he spent his years in Paris and London, relying on his unwavering determination and intelligence to ingratiate himself into various social circles and seize opportunities. After World War I, Elliot Templeton secured a position with the Paris Red Cross due to his war medals, amassing a considerable fortune in the process. He gradually established himself, enjoying a comfortable life. He seized every business opportunity, discreetly peddling suspicious antiques and paintings to the upper echelons of society, thereby amassing great wealth. With his extensive knowledge, philanthropic nature, and affable personality, he played a prominent role in a small social circle within the city. He invested significant time and effort in hosting elegant dinners and cultivating various social relationships. He even successfully navigated the 1930s American stock market crash, profiting handsomely. He used various strategies to connect himself with noble families and received noble titles. He had already prepared an early Christian-era sarcophagus for himself and left a will stating his refusal to be buried alongside retired military officers and the middle class. Elliot dedicated his entire life to the world of social interactions, which fueled the fire of his existence. He stretched his hands toward the warmth but also suffered burns from this flame. In his later years, his greatest agony in social circles was being omitted from the lavish gatherings hosted by the more sophisticated and influential American youth, Paul Barton, and the socialite Edna. They invited prominent figures but conspicuously excluded him, eventually leading to his death with a sense of bitterness. Elliot was not a parvenu. All his activities were deeply rooted in a profound romantic ideal. His close interactions with those of esteemed lineage, acting as an intimate of duchesses and high-ranking individuals, brought him a sense of never-ending triumph. This lively, elaborate, and tedious social interaction on the surface connected him to ancient wars, the glories recorded in history, and the boundless expanses of the world. All of this provided individuals in modern society with a certain sense of belonging and security. In this sense, although in real life Elliot strongly opposed Larry's engagement to Isabel and resented Larry's refusal to follow the well-trodden path of success, deep down, Elliot also felt an affinity with Larry because they were both chasing their own ideals of life. Maugham's life spanned from the late Victorian era to the post-World War II period. His meticulous depiction of social life and the significant portions devoted to it, much like Elliot's unflagging enthusiasm for parties and socializing, stem from an inner need for warmth and security. In this regard, the writer Maugham and the character Elliot both possess a spirit of a bygone empire. Elliot once harbored a dream deep in his heart, hoping that America would replace Europe and establish a respected aristocracy that the masses would admire. The economic crisis shattered this possibility, and he lamented his homeland's increasingly irredeemable vulgarity. This vulgarity referred to the blurring of boundaries between different social classes, and it shook the exquisite world he had sought. When Isabel disagreed with Larry and urged him to become part of the development of American society, she said, "We're living in a magnificent time that the world has never seen before. We are the greatest, the most powerful nation in the world. We're advancing by leaps and bounds every day." At the end of the novel, there is a lengthy lyrical passage that describes Larry's encounter with the American people upon his return. Troubled by so many conflicting interests, so lost in the confusion of the world, so eager for good, so certain in appearance, so doubtful in heart, so charitable, so cruel, so honest, and yet so crafty, so mean, and yet so generous, such is the American people. Maugham's love for America extends beyond merely depicting a group of Americans. It encompasses the future of America, its idealism, and the inner world of its people, examining how they connect themselves to their country. With sincerity and pretense, he constructs a world and bids farewell to another. In his later years, Maugham enjoyed high esteem, receiving the title of Honorary Companion of Honor from the British Queen. His works were translated into multiple languages and sold worldwide. However, the prevailing view in literary criticism is that Maugham cannot be placed on the same pedestal as literary giants like Shakespeare, Balzac, Tolstoy, or Dostoevsky due to his lack of dominance in terms of grand themes, innovative literary styles, and the ability to engage with contemporary issues. Nonetheless, Maugham famously quipped about his own standing, saying, "I am only a second-rate writer among first-rate writers." In 1965, at the age of 91, Maugham passed away. As a writer who spanned from the late 19th century to the mid-20th century, his realist writing style focused on modernist themes. These themes included the loneliness of modern individuals, a sense of absurdity, and disillusionment. His extensive knowledge and travels gave his works a broad perspective, leaving traces of the history of Western colonial expansion. Maugham keenly and profoundly examined the ingrained habits and shortcomings of Western civilization and held a hopeful fascination with Eastern cultures. Since its publication, The Razor's Edge has been beloved by readers worldwide, thanks in part to these factors. To be more specific, the following points can be highlighted. 1. Maugham was one of the best-selling British novelists of the 20th century and a perceptive observer of human nature. The Razor's Edge serves as a comprehensive summary of his lengthy career, with a historical backdrop set after World War I when the American economy plunged into the Great Depression. During this period, people grappled with spiritual emptiness and questioned the meaning of life. Larry, the protagonist, is a representative figure of this era as he embarks on a journey of self-discovery. 2. In Maugham's extensive body of work, The Razor's Edge represents a culmination and offers a concluding insight into the spiritual exploration of the Western world's existential crisis and dilemma. Larry's path to enlightenment can also be seen as Maugham's ultimate understanding of this challenging exploration. 3. The Razor's Edge is not a novel centered on events. Rather, it explores the theme of the meaning of life, a theme that has surfaced in numerous literary works. What sets it apart and accounts for its enduring popularity is its relatable story of youthful exploration, the conflict between spiritual and material pursuits, and the journey of a lone soul in search of meaning. Beyond this, Maugham uses this story to delve into a panoramic view of American society, delving deep into the mental struggles of Western society in the 20th century. Many serious social and existential questions are seamlessly woven into the narrative. As a keen observer of human nature, Maugham presents a profound understanding of life and destiny through various characters and their life experiences. Well, that concludes the content for this episode. If you enjoyed my video, please click like, subscribe to my channel, and share it with your friends. Thank you.